Have you ever stood in front of someone you genuinely wanted, heart open, words ready, snorts, and still walked away feeling invisible? You did everything right. You were kind. You were interested. You showed up. And somehow it still didn't work. She pulled back. The energy shifted. And you were left standing there wondering what you did wrong, or worse, what's wrong with you. I know that feeling. And I'm here to tell you something important before we go any further. Nothing is wrong with you. I'm your host, and this is Teal Swan Advice, where we uncover the real psychology that creates desire. Not surface level tips, not pickup lines. The deep invisible wiring that actually drives attraction between men and women. And today we're going to talk about something most men spend their entire lives: how to ask for intimacy without getting rejected. And I'll warn you now, the final trigger we cover is incredibly powerful. It can change everything fast, and almost no one uses it correctly. So stay with me. Let's start with the moment most men recognize. You've been spending time with someone. There's warmth between you, laughter, eye contact that lingers a little longer than it needs to. You feel it, you're sure she feels it too, and then you move. You say something, or you reach out, or you shift the energy in a way that signals what you want, and it collapses. She goes cold, she says something vague, she texts differently after that. The connection you thought you had just quietly disappears, and you replay it 100 times, trying to find the moment you broke it. Here's what nobody tells you: you didn't break it. You just moved at the wrong time in the wrong sequence. Attraction isn't a destination you arrive at by being good enough. It's a process, a biological, psychological sequence that unfolds in a specific order. When you skip steps, not because you're bad, but because you were never shown the map. The whole thing collapses, not because she didn't like you, because the sequence wasn't complete. This was never your fault. Nobody taught you this. Men are raised to believe that if you're honest about what you want and decent in how you treat someone, the rest should follow naturally. And that's a beautiful idea. But the human brain, especially in the context of attraction, doesn't run on logic. It runs on feeling, on pattern recognition, on subconscious signals that are processed before a single conscious thought forms. She isn't deciding whether to be attracted to you. Her nervous system is. And her nervous system is scanning for very specific things most men don't even know they're failing to provide. Evolutionary psychology has spent decades mapping this. Women evolved in environments where choosing the wrong partner had serious, sometimes fatal consequences. So the female brain developed incredibly sophisticated detection systems. It scans for stability, for strength, for genuine interest, for social intelligence, for the kind of man who can hold ground without needing to dominate. These aren't preferences she consciously chose. They're deep patterns, mental shortcuts running beneath awareness. And the men who understand these patterns don't chase, they don't beg, they don't push. They simply become the environment where attraction grows naturally. Once you understand the hidden signals, you stop chasing and become the man women want to win over. There are 7 of these signals, 7 psychological triggers that, when activated in the right sequence, change the entire dynamic. Not because you're manipulating anyone, but because you're finally speaking the language attraction actually understands. Let's walk through each one. The first is masculine presence. This is the most foundational and the most misunderstood. Presence has nothing to do with how you look, how tall you are, or how much you earn. It has everything to do with your energy. Specifically, whether you're grounded in yourself or looking to her to tell you how to feel. Most men, without realizing it, walk into interactions seeking approval. They're scanning her face for signs that she's enjoying herself. They're softening their opinions to match hers. They're nervous because they've already decided she holds the verdict on their worth. And she feels all of it, not consciously, but she feels it. Grounded masculine energy is different. It's calm without being cold. It's interested without being needy. It's the energy of a man who has a place to be after this. A life that's moving. A center that doesn't shift depending on whether she smiles at him. When you walk into a room like that, something shifts. She notices, her nervous system notices, and it registers as safety, which is ironically one of the most powerful preconditions for desire. Stop performing, start being present. The second trigger is emotional challenge. This one goes against everything most men were taught. You were probably told that to attract someone, you should be agreeable, accommodating, easy to be around. But attraction doesn't grow in the absence of friction. It grows in the presence of polarity. A man who agrees with everything, laughs at everything, and never pushes back on anything isn't experienced as safe. He's experienced as invisible. Emotional challenge looks like playful teasing. It looks like having an opinion and holding it. It looks like telling her she's wrong about something with a smile and not backing down when she pushes back. It creates a dynamic where she has to earn your approval a little rather than being handed it for free. Dopamine, the chemical your brain releases in anticipation of reward, is triggered not by getting what you want, but by the uncertainty of whether you will. When you become slightly unpredictable in your approval, she starts thinking about you more. Give her something to push against. That's where polarity lives. The third trigger, selective attention. Here's a truth that will feel counterintuitive at first. The man who gives a woman his full, constant, undivided attention is less attractive than the man who has a full life and chooses to give her some of it. Not because playing games works, but because scarcity is real. What is rare feels valuable. What is always available feels ordinary. This isn't about ignoring her or being artificially unavailable. It's about actually having things that matter to you. Purpose, friendships, work you care about, physical challenges you're pursuing. When she asks what you've been up to, you should have a genuine answer that doesn't revolve around waiting to hear from her. Because the man who is genuinely busy, genuinely alive in his own world, gives his attention as a gift, and gifts feel different than obligations. Your attention should feel like something she wants to earn, not something she already owns. Now, if any of this is landing for you, if you're starting to see the pattern underneath the pattern, do this right now. Hit subscribe and join the Teal Swan Advice community. It helps more men learn what they were never taught. There are thousands of men who found this channel and told us it changed how they see themselves, not just how they approach women. Be one of them. The fourth trigger is intentional listening. Most men listen to respond. They're half present, already formulating their next move while she's still speaking. And she knows, not because she's analyzing you, because the human brain is wired to detect genuine attention versus performed attention. We evolved in social environments where being truly seen by another person meant safety. So when someone actually sees us, it lands differently. It feels rare because it is. Intentional listening means remembering what she told you 3 conversations ago and bringing it back. It means noticing the emotion under the story she's telling, not just the facts. It means asking the question that shows you are actually tracking her, not just waiting for your turn to talk. There's a reason people fall in love with therapists. It has nothing to do with attraction in the conventional sense. It has everything to do being genuinely seen. When she feels truly seen by you, she starts to feel attached to you. Remember the small things. That's not weakness, that's emotional intelligence. The fifth trigger is calibrated vulnerability. This one has been misused on both ends of the spectrum. On one side, you have men who never show anything real, who present a curated, invincible front, and wonder why the connection never deepens. On the other side, you have men who overshare too early, who turn every conversation into an emotional excavation, who mistake dumping pain on someone for genuine intimacy. Neither works. Calibrated vulnerability is different. It's the art of sharing something real, something that costs you something to say at the right moment and the right amount. It's telling her about the time you failed at something and what it taught you. It's admitting that something matters to you when most men would shrug it off. It's letting her see that underneath the groundedness, there's a human being, not performing weakness, not hiding strength, just being real. The man who can be both strong and honest creates a depth that polished men never reach. Share something true, just don't make it a confession, make it a window. The sixth trigger is gradual physical touch. Physical touch is the language your body uses to communicate before words become possible. But timing and calibration are everything. Touch too early, too intensely, without the emotional context to support it, and it lands as intrusion. Touch with intention, with lightness, with awareness of her response, and it activates biological that words alone cannot. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, releases through appropriate physical contact. A light touch on the arm when you're laughing together, a guiding hand at the small of her back when you're walking through a doorway. These aren't just gestures, they're biological signals. They tell her nervous system that your physical presence is safe, and from safety, desire grows. Start light, stay attentive, let the physical story build slowly. Don't reach for the moment, let it arrive. Now we come to the seventh trigger, and this is the one I warned you about at the beginning, the one that almost no one uses correctly. The one that when you understand, it changes everything about how attraction works. It's called controlled unpredictability. Here's the science. First, the human brain releases dopamine not in response to receiving a reward, but in response to the possibility of receiving one. This is why variable reward schedules are so addictive. It's why slot machines work the way they do. It's why you keep checking your phone even when you're not expecting a message. The brain is wired to pursue patterns it can't fully predict, and people are no different. When a man is entirely predictable, entirely readable, entirely available in exactly the same way every time, the brain categorizes him, files him, stops producing the neurochemical cocktail that creates obsessive thinking. But when a man is warm one day and slightly distant the next, not out of cruelty, but because he genuinely has a full life with shifting focus, the brain can't file him, it stays alert. It keeps producing dopamine in anticipation of the next interaction. This is not about being cold. It's not about withholding affection to punish. It's about being genuinely multidimensional. Having days where you're fully present with her. Having days where your energy is inward, focused, directed at something that matters to you. Having opinions that shift the dynamic sometimes. Having a version of yourself that surprises her slightly every few interactions. The man she can't quite fully predict is the man she keeps thinking about between conversations. Use this with care, with respect, with genuine intention, not to confuse someone, not to manufacture anxiety, but because you actually are a full, complex human being. And if you've been flattening yourself to be more accessible, you've been accidentally removing the very thing that creates lasting attraction. Stop being so easy to read, not because mystery is a tactic, but because you're more than she's seen yet. Now let's bring this all together, because these 7 triggers aren't separate moves you perform on different nights. They're dimensions of a single identity. The man who has masculine presence isn't performing calm. He actually has a foundation. The man who uses emotional challenge isn't being difficult. He has genuine opinions. The man who practices selective attention isn't playing games. He actually has a life. The man who listens intentionally isn't running a technique. He's genuinely curious. The man who shares calibrated vulnerability isn't managing an impression. He's actually real. The man who uses gradual physical touch isn't following a script. He's reading the room. And the man who embodies controlled unpredictability isn't running a pattern. He's genuinely alive in multiple directions. Do you see what's happening? These aren't tricks. They're the natural expressions of a man who has done the internal work. A man who has a center. A man who doesn't need her validation to feel okay about himself. And that man, not the man who says the right lines, not the man who dresses a certain way or drives a certain car, that man is what the female nervous system has been scanning for since before language existed. Rejection doesn't mean she doesn't find you attractive. It often means the sequence wasn't complete. It means one of these triggers was missing. It means your timing was off. None of that is permanent. All of it is learnable. And you've already started learning it just by being here. The man who asks for intimacy without getting rejected isn't asking differently than other men. He's arrived at the moment of asking after completing a sequence that makes the answer feel natural to her, not forced, not sudden, not uncomfortable. He hasn't pushed for connection. He's created the conditions where connection had nowhere else to go. That's the real skill, not the ask, the setup. You don't need to be perfect at all 7 of these from tomorrow. You just need to start moving in this direction. Pick one. The one that resonated most, the one that explained something you couldn't explain before. Start there. Practice it not as a technique, but as a genuine expression of who you're becoming, snorts. Because identity is built in small, repeated moments. And each time you show up grounded, curious, real, and present, you're not just attracting a specific woman, you're becoming a man who moves differently in the world. That shift compounds. People feel it before they can name it. And eventually, you stop asking what you're doing wrong because you're doing something right, quietly, consistently, from the inside out. You don't need perfection, you need strategy. Real tools, not tricks, used with respect and intention for a connection that's actually worth having. And the best part, the more genuinely you become this man, the less you'll need to ask for intimacy at all. It will find you. If you're ready to stop chasing and start becoming the man women genuinely desire, subscribe to Teal Swan Advice now. Turn on notifications because the next one will shift your reality.